Hey guys, so we're back again with another reading, and this one is all about what the universe is going to be surprising you with. So we're going to see what surprises your spiritual team has up its sleeve for you, what you're not going to be expecting or seeing coming. And so all the surprises you have to look forward to, we're going to get into it. I love these kinds of future readings. They're so much fun for me to do. So I'm really excited for this one. And today we have a beautiful selection of cakes for you guys to choose from. We have some jelly roll cakes and then some hot lava style cakes, and they're all in beautiful pastel colors with fruits decorating the top. So they're absolutely beautiful, and if one is already sticking out to you, you can totally feel free to skip ahead to that point at any time. I am going to throw the numbers up on the screen so you can see which one is which, and I am going to have the timestamps down in the comments and in the description as well, so you can just skip ahead to your pile. If it's your first pick a card reading, you want to go towards the one your energy is feeling called to and drawn to. So don't overthink it too much. Just go with that first instinct, the first one that seems to just pull your energy into it. That is the one for you, and that will be the one with the message for you. So like I said, don't overthink it too much. Often it's going to be your first instinct, and just trust yourself, trust your judgment. I also want to mention to you guys that I do have my Patreon up with a ton of additional readings. When you sign up, you get access to 35 existing readings, and new ones go up all the time. I just posted a Halloween one all about tricks or treats from the universe, and before that, what is going on around you that you need to be aware of, all about people around you, shady energy that may be around you. And of course, there's the extended reading. There's so many different types of topics from love, spirituality, career, relocation. I mean, there's like 35 topics, so there's a lot to choose from. So if you guys want to join our little party over at Patreon, I would love to have you. You can head to the link in my description and underneath the timestamps in the comments as well. And like I said, join our little party over there. Also, if you guys want to get a private one-on-one reading with me, for the time being, I am doing them, and you can get one at my website, briarrosetarot.com, if you'd like to sign up. I do offer half-hour sessions and then full-hour sessions, so you can pick what works for you and get yourself booked and get that appointment in. And yeah, so if you guys want clarity on a certain situation, or you just want me to channel some guidance from spirit for you, or whatever, there's so many different options for readings. So like I said, you can head to my website. Link for that is in the description, briarrosetarot.com, if you want to get a one-on-one session with me. So with all of that being said, if you guys need more time to decide, you can totally feel free to rewind, pause, and take as much time as you need. But we are going to go ahead and jump into pile one. Hey pile one, welcome to your reading. We're going to do a live shuffle to see about how the universe is going to be surprising you. Oh my goodness. The Lovers leading off the reading. We're not going to do reversals this time. So obviously I do feel like there's some romantic relationship that wants to come through. And we just got the Two of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups. Wow. So this is going to be a foundational kind of relationship. It's not just going to be like a quick flash in the pan. I almost feel like for some of you guys, this might be either you've never had a serious relationship, or it's going to be a lot more serious and intense than ones you've had in the past. And I mean, like, going down into business of like, okay, so maybe we're thinking about starting a life together, or maybe in the past you had relationships, but things kind of stayed more surfacey, you know what I mean? And with this person, it's like, we should travel together, we should get a mortgage together, or just like learning those relationship things where you go really deep with someone. I feel like some of you guys have been doing the emotional work for a really long time, and you're ready for a new relationship. You're ready for this depth and for this intensity. And Spirit is saying that, yeah, if you have had past relationships or flings, like, it's almost like they're gonna seem like nothing in comparison. You're gonna look back at them and be like, oh my God, like that barely even counts in comparison to how deep and intense this relationship is. It's going to be more about joining with this person and almost like compromising, which I know might not sound super like exciting or romantic, but I actually think, you know, it is like compromising, having those difficult discussions is really the meat of like a deep relationship. You know, when it's just like a fling, of course you don't have to compromise. When it's just like a summer fling and it's not that deep, of course you're like, sure, let's go get pizza, even though I want Chinese food and whatever, I don't really care. But, when you're in it for like 6 months, you're gonna stop, being okay with just getting pizza every night. And you're gonna be like, okay, I really want Chinese food now. And there might be a discussion. I just feel like you guys are actually really learning how to like open your heart up. Some of you guys have been very protective of yourselves and your heart. And even if you did let people in, it wasn't like fully committing to that. And or maybe the other person wasn't willing to fully commit to you. And so you were the one who was like down and open, but they were like, I'm going to keep myself separate. And now I feel like you guys are being allowed to just go a lot deeper and have something that is going to mean so much to you and really allow you to go there emotionally. Let me get some more cards. Okay, so we got the 10 of Wands and the 5 of Cups. I actually feel like a big thing with this new thing coming in is that you're almost giving up ties to past relationships that maybe kept you very tied to them. Maybe you had past relationships where you were thinking of someone from your past and it was just always on your mind, and even though this person wasn't really doing so much stuff for you, maybe you guys still tolerated it, still felt tied to them, still didn't want to move on because you were like, okay, I don't want to abandon them. I don't want to be cruel to them. And I know their higher self is going to be upset if I move on. Even if their like lower immature human self is we're not really talking. I still feel tied to this twin flame situation. And I feel like now I just heard in my mind, what have you done for me lately? Which I don't even know. I think that's a song, but I've never heard it. But I think it is a song. It is a phrase. I know that. And I feel like for you guys, you're starting to ask yourself that question and starting to more pay attention to like what someone is doing for you in this physical reality, not just like the vibes on the spiritual plane, the astral plane. And as I always say, as we can see in the Magician card, yes, in spirituality, we're supposed to be on the astral plane to some extent, but we're put on this earth for a reason. We're supposed to live on this earth for a reason. We're not just supposed to spend all our time in the astral plane. And when you're in a relationship where it's always up on the astral plane and you're just connected with someone psychically, and you're not actually getting to like feel them and touch them and be next to them and stare at their eyes across the table, like that's missing out on a crucial component of a relationship. So I feel like you're finally giving yourself permission to move on and to have what you want and to realize like you do not owe this to someone else. You're not tied to someone forever. Even if you guys did have a deep connection, you can also take that for what it was and be like, wow, I'm so grateful for that experience. And now time for me to have this. Just like, you can have an amazing meal at a restaurant. You can have like an incredible appetizer. Like I just went to get a tasting menu, and it was so good, and after every like meal, every part of the meal, every dish, I was like, oh my God, that was so good. But I wouldn't like refuse to eat the next one because I was like, oh my gosh, that appetizer was freaking amazing. So you know what? No, I refuse to have dessert, or you know what I mean? Or like that pasta dish was so good. So no, I don't want the meat entree. No, I refuse to eat it. And some of us do that in like relationships or in the world. We're so focused on some other thing that happened in the past, we refuse to allow spirit to bring us in the new thing. And I feel like you're really starting to take stock of your current life and whatever's going on and being like, you know what? I don't want to put up with this anymore. I don't want to wait around. If something's not benefiting me now in my daily life, I'm kind of done. And I want something better than this. I want something more present, more physically present with me. And I feel like you're going to get opportunities to actually live this and to actually experience this in your life. Spirit is going to pick up on this and start giving you more of these opportunities with people you're like, okay, I really like that. Because I feel like for the longest time, even though y'all might have said like, I want a new relationship or I'm ready to date, you were still very tied to someone else, or you were still, I don't know, fear of commitment, something holding you back from emotionally committing and really being in it. You know what I mean? Like, as I was saying at the beginning, this is about really being in the relationship, not just like, oh yeah, we hang out and we make out or whatever, but we're not really getting super emotionally deep. Feels like you are gonna maybe be like even joining lives with someone, or at the very least having really deep connections of being able to open up to yourself. It might also even be with friends. It might be like you meeting new people, and instead of you kind of keeping it cordial but not being super open, like maybe it's some coworkers or something, and usually with coworkers you keep things very like distant, but now you're like, wow, we're kind of becoming best friends and I'm really opening myself up to them. I feel like you guys are just much more emotionally present now in the world. And this also can just be an energy of you kind of bringing more romance into your life in general, like making your life romantic. You know, even if you're going out alone, you can go to a really nice restaurant and have a beautiful glass of wine for lunch with yourself and really take your time out to enjoy, or go for a walk in a beautiful location. You know, it's like, I love the romanticism movement, and that's a lot of paintings, poetry, that kind of a thing. It's not just about like people getting in relationships and making out. You know, it's this whole philosophical movement, and it's about seeing the world for the beauty and the Venus energy that exists everywhere. It's not just in relationships that we see Venus energy. Why did I just combine the word beauty and Venus? It sounded really ugly. But yeah, it's in everything. You know, there's beauty in so many things, and I feel like you're going to kind of romanticize your life. And just, you know, with that 10 of wands, you might have been working really hard, feeling really overburdened, so that might be ending for you. And I feel like a lot of those are coming through you setting down some boundaries yourself, and not just being like, okay, like I just hope these work obligations go away, but like setting some limits and stuff like that. I'm gonna go with these cards next. Spirit, can you please give us guidance? What is coming next for pile one? How are you going to surprise them? Straddling worlds, wandering between realms. I also feel like your imagination is really on point. Honestly, it feels to me like some of you guys have been going through a very difficult period for a while. And I mean difficult in the sense of like hard work and just really having to push yourself a lot. And I feel like now it's almost like things are just loosened up, kind of like this corset. If someone was wearing a corset and then, you know, they just loosened all the strings and suddenly the person could breathe really easily. Like, I feel like for you guys, you have been just working and pushing and, not really having so much fun, not really having those joyous parts of life. Maybe you haven't really been able to tie into the energy of love or focus on your love life because you've just had so many other obligations. And I feel like you're going to start realizing that you have the power to say no, or to even just change your attitude towards your work situation. Whereas sometimes, you know, you don't even need to quit. It's like you need to change your mindset from like, I have to go to work to I get to go to work. And I know sometimes that, you know, it's a case by case situation. Sometimes you need to quit your job because it's not a good situation for you. Sometimes you could put more energy into positivity into your job and into seeing the best in it, and to looking for the opportunities, and into like being like, awesome, I'm so glad I get to do this. I'm so glad I get to start my day this way, or whatever the case may be. But I feel like something changes with you guys, changing something for you, for your mindset. And a lot of it, I do feel like, is putting up some boundaries and also taking more active rest. Like, if you usually would just lay at home on the weekends and just mindlessly surf through like TV channels, suddenly you're going to be, you know, being like, okay, on the weekends, I want to go out, I want to explore my city, or I want to go for a beautiful walk. So I'm going to drive to this little beautiful area nearby where it can be very scenic. Whatever you have around you, I feel like you're going to be really taking advantage of that. And Spirit is going to really allow you to have a much easier stretch of your life, and to pay more attention to those things that bring you happiness and bring you fulfillment. So you're not just rushing around in that 10 of wands energy, pushing yourself to the limit, but you're actually allowing for a little bit more beauty in. I do feel like some of you guys have been doing shadow work for a while, because the energy of the past for you feels very heavy. It feels like you guys have been dealing with a lot. And honestly, it feels like there hasn't been as much happiness in your life. I feel like for some of you guys, you might not even realize how kind of drained, tired, heavy things have been for you. And if you might reflect on this period in your life later, you might be like, wow, I can't believe I got through that. You know how sometimes you look back at times in your life and you're like, oh, that was a great time. Or you're like, wow, that was really hard. I feel like you might look back at this time and be like, Whew, I am glad that period is over. And I do feel like it is coming to an end for you guys. I feel like you're going to have an opportunity, things opening up a little to just get a little bit easier. And for some of you guys, this also might be more financial abundance, more financial ease, because the energy that's coming through is just more easiness, not having to push yourself so hard, not having to work so hard, but something just giving. Like I'm hearing something's got to give, and I feel like I'm literally seeing, something loosening. So it's literally like someone unlacing a corset, or untying a shoe and like freeing someone's foot, or I don't know, like just clearing out like a stuffed room that's stuffed to the brim, like a storage space that like is piled up with things, and then just removing everything and clearing it out, and the energy can flow. Like I just feel like there's a lot of things that maybe have just been weighing on you, and it's almost like, okay, you passed this test, or you've been through this difficult period, and now things are going to open up. And I feel like that actually is giving some of you guys the room to even think about what you really like, because for so long I feel like you guys in pile one have just been under a lot of pressure, to the point where you couldn't even really say like what you wanted, or you couldn't even really say like, oh, I love that. I always think it's funny sometimes, like when someone's in a really stressful situation and I'm doing like a private reading for someone, you might ask them like, well, what do you like? Or what's your type? Or what kind of like, what's your hobbies? And the person will be like, I don't know. And they won't even have a type or that they like to date. They don't even know what they like in a person, or what makes them feel good, or what hobbies they have, or, even sometimes like what flavor of food they like to eat. They're just kind of like shell shocked and focusing on survival. It's kind of like if you're starving, you're not going to be like, oh, sorry, that's not my favorite flavor of, cookie, so I'm not going to eat that. Yeah, do you have any chocolate chip? If someone gives you a cookie, you're going to like gobble it down no matter what flavor it is. And so when we're in that survival mode, which I do feel like you guys have been in, it can be really difficult. But I do feel like you guys are ready to leave your shell now. Like I'm seeing this caterpillar is just sticking out to me, and I feel like you guys are ready to leave the, is it called a chrysalis, and bloom into a beautiful butterfly now. And I do feel that there may be a lot of social opportunities. It just feels like your life is going to be more about you, less about these obligations. For some of you guys, it may be cutting out some toxic or maybe entitled people who think they can kind of tell you what to do, or think that your life is about them. Like you are supposed to live to please them. Like if you are to say like, yeah, I don't want to do that, that maybe you'll have a toxic friend who gets really mad at you, and you have to explain yourself as to why you can't like come on Saturday and repair their sink or something. And I feel like now you're stopping, like it's almost like the pressure has gotten so high that you're going to start clearing out and realizing, this isn't really sustainable for me. So you're going to start removing some of those obligations and just pushing them out, and really making the choices that benefit for you. And I feel like this is what allows you to really thrive. This is what allows this new energy to come in. And I think you guys are just going to be surprised by how much easier your life is. Also, some of you guys are going to be getting a lot more sleep and rest, which I feel like is a long time coming. And I do think that's going to be a surprise to you, because you might have been very sleep deprived for a really long time. Yeah, I think you guys might like literally have been unable to sleep through the night or something like that. And I feel like you're going to be surprised by, again, how good you feel. Well, let me get some of these cards too. Spirit, can you please tell us? Oh, forgiveness and commitment. Wow. So commitment is coming through really strong. This is the second forgiveness card. Truth. So you might be forgiving someone in your life, or giving someone a second chance. I almost feel like for you, some of you guys, it may be that there's some kind of negative emotion that you're releasing, some kind of negative thing or situation, like someone who hurt you and it really bothered you, and you just you're not paying as much attention to it. You're just kind of releasing. It feels like if there was negativity or pain, there's like, first of all, I feel like a bit of surprise coming through that you're like, wait, why did my life get super easy all of a sudden? Why did things just start flowing all of a sudden? Like it was so hard for so long, and like, how is this my life? And then I feel like you just naturally, you're not spending as much time thinking over some of the pains or hurts or the people who did you wrong. You're just much more focused on your life, your goals, and all the dreams you want to make happen for yourself. I also feel like you guys in pile one are just going to be going through a lot of changes. Like, I feel like, again, you might not recognize your life in like a year from now, because I feel like you're going through a lot of kind of parsing out the old, because I almost feel like your old life, it wasn't really something you necessarily actively chose. It was something that kind of was chosen for you in a way. Like if someone asked you to do something, I feel like a lot of you guys didn't really have the boundaries to say no if you didn't want to do it, or you didn't even have that ability. And this is what I was talking about with people coming out of difficult relationships or something like that, where maybe you didn't even realize that you had the right to say no. Maybe you just assumed that, like, well, I have to do it because this person asked me. So, yeah, I don't have a choice. Like, my boss asked me to do this. So, I got to do it. And you didn't realize that, like, no, you really don't have to do it. Actually, you can say no. Or you had friends that, you didn't really like spending time with, but whenever they'd call you, you'd pick up. Or whenever they'd text you to hang out, you'd go because it was just something to do. And I feel like you guys are really realizing your own power and really realizing that I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And I get to choose my life and my path and my direction. And I really think that's something I wish more people realized. Like, yes, things are fated, and some things are, important to happen in this lifetime, but also so much of life is about freedom of choice, is about you making your own decisions for yourself and telling the universe what you want, and then the universe listens. Like, you wouldn't go to a restaurant and just sit down and just not order anything or expect the waiter to randomly know what you wanted to eat. You would go and you order something, and you think about your favorite food and what will make you happy. You don't just allow the waiter to be like, well, we have a lot of extra, I don't know, schnitzel tonight or whatever. And so do you want, and I'll just give you that. And you wouldn't just be like, well, I'm allergic. I can't eat gluten, because I think schnitzel is breaded. But I could be wrong. But sure, yeah, that's fine. You'd be like, no, I don't want to eat that. I want the steak. And so much of the time in life, though, people get very complacent and they get into like, well, I just have to deal with this. This is my job. Or I just have to be in this relationship because this is just how it is. Or I just have to tolerate this from my parents because that's just how they are. Not realizing that you can choose what's in your life and you can choose what's not in your life. You can pack up your things and move. You can change your life on a dime. You can change your life entirely within a year. You can upend everything if you want to, and if it's not making you happy, and you can make the choice to continually seek out joy and to bring yourself happiness. And I feel like some of you guys just need to be reminded of that. Like, you're not stuck, you're not forced to be in this. Spirit is not making you suffer because you have to learn some really difficult lesson, but you might be allowing that in yourself because you think that's normal, or you think that's just how life is. Life is just hard and I just have to deal with this. But actually, life can be incredibly beautiful and easy and happy. And it's our decision to be empowered and to allow ourselves to seek that out. And I feel like you guys are really making those moves over the next year. Let me get some message cards for pile one. What message do you want pile one to know? Deep inward journey, you'll be rewarded for the work, leader of the light. What are you being called to serve and support others? You are the image maker. What you focus on manifests. So I feel like you guys have been doing a lot of this deep inner work for the past however long, could be years. Definitely, I feel like the past year has been kind of difficult for you guys. And I feel like now you are really ready to come out of that. It's almost like because of that, you've realized, I don't really like this. I don't like the feeling of complacency and just being forced to kind of deal with what everyone else wants from me. I want to step towards what I want for myself. And this isn't making me happy, and I don't really want to tolerate this anymore. I feel like you guys are really in this energy of being ready to push yourselves because I think you are going to have a little bit of trickiness just with putting down boundaries and just with putting down barriers. I feel like that's going to be the thing is I feel like some of you guys, you really don't like disappointing others. You might be empaths, and like when someone else is upset, you absorb their upsetness and their negative emotions, so you hate doing it. So you'd rather just be like, okay, I'm just going to suck it up and do it anyway. And I feel like now you're like, okay, it's time for me to really put the law down and start thinking about what I want and what brings me joy and happiness. And I'm not just going to sacrifice myself for others. And that's the domino that kind of sets off the line of putting you into this happiness. I feel like you guys have just kind of reached, I don't want to say your breaking point, but kind of like it's like the threshold it needed to reach. And now you're ready to make this choice to manifest something a lot better, something a lot easier. And I do feel like your next journey in life is going to be a lot easier for you. Maybe you have thought certain ideas about certain things like, oh, those kinds of relationships, they're not for me. I'm not a relationship person, or I can't really have a relationship like that, or I would like to have a job like that. What a dream that would be. But of course, someone like me, I could never do that. I have to be in this kind of a job because XYZ. And I feel like you're really unpacking these beliefs you have, these limiting beliefs about what you have to tolerate. Maybe you have an idea that every job has to be hard, or every job sucks, or every relationship is really difficult, or humans are hard to get along with. So, like, it's normal that my friendships are always causing conflict. And now you're starting to realize that when you tune into the magic of the universe and when you allow spirit to surprise you with the joy and delight and happiness that it always wants to surprise us with, that no, it doesn't have to be that hard. And of course, there's going to be some downsides to like everything, right? But at the same time, it can be so magical and so amazing, and you're not going to be dreading going into work. You're not going to be fighting or arguing with your boyfriend all the time. It's always funny to me, like spirit is showing me, I feel like there's people a lot of times who will go and they'll do lectures and stuff about how hard relationships are and how you just have to work through them, and how like you just got to keep fighting. And inevitably, I feel like a lot of those relationships end up in divorce. Why? Because a good relationship, you shouldn't have to be fighting all the time, right? It's not to say you'll never disagree or you'll never have a difference of opinion, but if you're constantly feeling like you have to work so hard and I just have to get myself through this and I just have to struggle through, that's probably not something in alignment with you. Why would you even want to do that? Like, honestly, So I feel like you guys are giving yourself permission to leave these things behind, to put up the boundaries. And yeah, I can see love coming in for you guys, new relationships. And I also feel like, yeah, for some of you guys, this is a major manifestation you wanted for a while. It could even be something like a baby. I feel like this is something that you guys kind of had an internal block about. And now that internal block leaves, and you're like, okay, you're amazed at how fast it manifests. You're amazed at how fast it comes in and how easy it is after a period of fighting so long. You're like, oh, I just needed to be in an easy energy to bring this in, and everything just comes to me. Like, this is crazy. But I think this is really positive for you, pile one. So yeah, I think relationships in particular, and also I think less like emphasis on your work and your job and more emphasis on the things that bring you happiness. So just an overall life filled with more ease and joy and happiness and fulfillment. And I'm seeing like a cozy Sunday, cozy afternoon, someone like staying in and watching football on Sundays, which is really interesting. I know that's not for me because I definitely would never choose to watch football. So whoever that's for, I don't know. But I feel like you guys are going to be able to have a kind of easier, happier, more relaxed, joyful life of the things that bring you joy, which is what matters. So anyway, I really hope that helped, pile one. Give it a thumbs up if it did, and make sure to let me know in the comments because I love, love, love hearing from you guys. And make sure to subscribe, turn notifications on if you want to find out as soon as I post. I would love to have you guys here. And if you guys want to see more of my readings, you can head on over to my Patreon. The link for that is underneath the timestamps in the description and in the comments, and you'll get access to 35 additional readings. So there's lots to listen to, lots to choose from. We have love, spirituality, career readings, all kinds of readings. So definitely check that out. And the last reading I posted, well, I posted the extended, but also all about tricks and treats from the universe coming your way, and also what you need to know about what's going on around you. So a lot of fun readings. Those are just the most recent. But anyway, check out my Patreon. Link is underneath the timestamps in the description and in the comments. And if you guys want a private one-on-one reading with me for the time being, I am doing readings, and so it's up at my website, briarrosetarot.com. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I am sending you lots of love and light, and I will see you very soon in another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey Pile 2, and welcome to your reading. So we're going to do a live shuffle and figure out what surprises are heading your way. What surprises are heading towards Pile 2? Okay, so we got the 7 of Wands. I'm not doing reversals for this reading. Ace of Swords. Page of Cups. Okay. And we got the World. So I just got a message that some of you guys are leveling up in your field, and you guys are going to have some kind of an insight to make you have an idea of exactly what you need to do to get ahead. I feel like a lot of people's eyes are going to be on you during this time because you're going to be standing out from the crowd somehow. So whatever kind of a job you have, whether maybe you're in a competitive office or something, there's a lot of competition to be seen, or maybe you could be standing out somehow on social media or something like that. But I do feel like a lot of people are going to be noticing you, and not always friendly. There are going to be some really competitive people who are maybe negative or nasty, but Spirit wants to let you know that it's because they're feeling threatened because of your power and your potential, and everyone can see it and sense it. It's almost like they can smell it. I just got the strongest image in my mind of someone like walking past a bakery and the aroma of like apple pie is wafting out. And even though you've never seen the apple pie yet, you can just smell, that apple pie, whether it's ready or not. It might not be fully out of the oven, but you can smell it, it's coming. And that's with you guys, what's going on. There's an energy around you of like future success and potential. I feel like you guys are achievers. You'd like to do stuff. I'm even getting a little burst of energy as I tune into your energy. So I feel like you naturally have some energy and some force, and you're like ambitious, and I do feel like you are going to be able to achieve some of these things that you're really wanting. And people that may have dismissed you in the past, or didn't take you seriously, or didn't really see your full potential or value, they are going to have to take notice now. They're not going to be able to pretend anymore like you're not really a threat or a contender. They're going to have to sit back and take note. And I do feel like you guys are going to have different opportunities coming at you, but it's almost like I think I love the metaphor of the apple pie baking in the oven. Even though Spirit just brought it to my mind, I feel like there's multiple layers to it of, that apple pie was made well in advance. Like when you go into that bakery, you're not going to see that person chopping the apples probably. Whoever it is, the baker is probably out front waiting for customers, because all that pie was already put together a couple hours before, and they just needed to wait for it to cook in the oven, So the apples were sliced, the pie crust was made. If you've ever made pie crust, it's a really long, complicated process involving like a ton of butter. You'd be surprised how much butter goes into an apple pie or any pie. It's crazy. And it takes a long time. It's a complicated, kind of baking. And I do feel like you guys have been working on this or wanting a breakthrough for a long time. And it's almost like it's going to come out of nowhere and really surprise you, which is what this reading is about. But I do feel like even more so than other people, like you're going to be like, wow, like it's happening now, but maybe you're like, but I was working way harder in the past. But there's going to be an easiness coming in, some kind of brilliant insight Spirit might give you that you're like, oh, maybe I should try this. And then you try it and everything lines up. And I do feel like you need to know that you're going to get that download at the right moment. So if you're kind of feeling impatient with it, or being like, oh my gosh, when is it going to happen? Like, I'm ready for it. Come on, let's go. It's going to happen right on schedule at the perfect timing. Remember, God's timing is not our timing. God's timing is perfect timing. And I do feel like when it happens, it's going to happen really unexpectedly. Like it's going to be something where you're like, well, I guess I'll try this, whatever, and not really thinking about it. And then boom, like whatever it is really successful. So maybe you're like, oh, I'll just bring in lunch. Yeah, maybe I could bring in lunch for my boss and whatever. Yeah, they'll probably like that. It'll be a nice gesture at least. And then like somehow the boss, like you bring it to them on a random day when they're having like the worst day ever and they get really touched and emotional by the fact that you brought them lunch and then they end up promoting you, like something crazy like that, you know, where you're like, wait a minute, but I was working my tail off on the reports for like months and you didn't care, but like I brought you some Panera one day and now I'm promoted. Like what the heck? But I do feel like it's going to come in easily and seamlessly. Like you're not going to have to struggle for it or fight with it. It's going to just be kind of a creative, random idea that spirit gives you that I do feel like is going to level you up. You know, the world is a card of completion. And I do feel like for you guys, there's a completion happening with this. There's some kind of level that you're reaching that maybe has been a long time coming. And it just started raining, which to me is a really good omen. I know not everyone feels that way, but I love rain. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's so pretty. And I do feel like you guys are going to have sudden rain. You know, it's like rain in the desert. When you're not expecting it, you're not seeing it. And that's the funny thing about rain in the desert. And when you spend time out in desert places, like I love the Mojave Desert, you know, there's a lot of signs up that it's like warning, flash floods. Why? Because rain doesn't happen in the desert like all year. And then randomly during the rainy season, which is still like rain hardly ever happens, it'll just come pouring down. Like the rain in the desert is so intense. It's crazy because you'd think, okay, it hasn't rained all year. So when it rains, it's probably going to be a little drizzle. It's probably going to be nothing. It's just going to be a couple raindrops. No, the desert, it's like completely dry. And then when it does rain, it'll just pour, pour, pour. And that's why they have flash floods happen in the desert. And it'll literally have so much volume of water that it'll take a dry, like little carved out area and turn it into a roaring river in like 5 minutes. It's insane. And it'll sweep away cars, all this stuff. And that's what I'm seeing for you guys is like, you're not expecting this. You're minding your business. You're just chilling. And then boom, the rain just comes pouring down in a good way, because again, to me, rain is a good thing. And I think that this is like the rain you've wanted. You know, you've been waiting, you've been looking out for it, but you can't predict it. That's another thing about, I feel like rain in the desert, or rain in general, meteorologists, like I think their error rates are pretty high, because at the end of the day, us humans, we're still very bad at predicting those kind of divine events. And I feel like this is going to happen unexpectedly. It's not going to be something you're necessarily predicting or looking out for or thinking matches up with your actions. Maybe you're like, well, I've just been kind of taking it easy lately, so maybe nothing's going to happen. And then boom, it just comes in so amazingly powerful and strong. So yeah, that is the first surprise I'm getting for you guys. Let me get some more guidance for pile 2. What unexpected surprises are happening for pile 2, Spirit? What unexpected surprises are happening for pile 2? Ooh, I love that for you guys. The root girl, the disowned self, the further gate, bold step forward. So I want to talk about this card first before I lose the download that just got placed in my mind. But I do feel like with the root girl, disowned self, some of you guys have been like cutting away. Like you've been chopping up things in your life, making like taking things out that didn't serve you anymore. You've been kind of ruthless about it. I feel you've been in a season of pruning. Like you have been, just like a gardener will go out to a tree that's not really producing a lot of fruit and start tweezing away all the extra dead branches and leaves and twigs and whatever. That's what you guys have been doing. I feel like you have been pruning it away, and it kind of, maybe it looks a little bit worse now, or maybe you're like, yeah, it's not really moving forward. But I do feel like Spirit is saying it's because you've been pruning. It's because you've been kind of ruthless. Like I feel like you guys have been sorting out your life and really looking at things that you want to change. And before, you might have been saying yes to things that you didn't really want to do, that didn't really serve you. And I feel like this has been a season for you of reflection on that, and of like, let me get rid of this part. Let me remove that habit. You know what? I'm not doing that anymore. And I feel like this is going to pay off because of it. You're going to be able to have the blessings come to you because you were willing to do all this work. And because you guys were, like I said, a little bit ruthless about getting rid of the stuff that didn't serve you. Maybe this is people, maybe this is things. It feels like you guys have really embraced change. You might have made a move, like an actual physical relocation, or you might have changed jobs, changed your friend group. But I just feel like you guys are kind of like, nothing can hold you back at this point. Like you're just you're just doing you. You're thinking about you. And I feel like because of that, you've become very instinctual, because maybe some of these changes didn't make sense to people. Maybe there were people that were like, what is this person doing? Have they lost their mind? Like, they're acting crazy. Or like when you told someone like, oh, I'm switching jobs, or I'm moving, or I'm not hanging out with that person anymore. Like, they were like, what? Oh my God. Okay, so they're crazy. They lost their mind. Like, I feel like you've faced some really serious doubts people had and people not getting it. And you just really like have kind of completely turned a blind eye to it. Like, you're not listening anymore to all the doubters, all the naysayers. You don't really care if people understand what you're doing or not. And because of that, I feel like you're fully listening to your intuition. That's such a strong proof that you're listening to your intuition. And because of that, I feel like your intuition has become even more attuned, so that when you do get this divine download from spirit, it's like you're able to enact it really quick. You're able to put it into place really fast, and you're not questioning yourself. You're not going back and forth. It feels like you guys are in a period of boldness and unafraidness. Like, you're just moving forward kind of as fast as you can. And it's interesting. I just got the image of like a rock climber climbing up a really steep precipice. And I'm thinking of that guy who climbed Yosemite, and he did it freehand. And like, he did it, I think also he's known for climbing really fast. So it's interesting that he was doing one of the riskiest climbs and one of the most, I think the most dangerous, because he was like the first one who was able to do it, right? Or one of the most dangerous. And you would think like someone who's doing that, then they'd really take a long time and they'd pause at every step and they'd kind of take a moment and be like, okay, is this the right ledge? Hold on. But actually, you can't really climb that way. You'd run out of energy, right? It would take so long that you wouldn't be able to scale it. And there's something about those quick muscle movements, like those intuitive, like just, and I know maybe this guy wouldn't call it intuition. You know, I know he's an athlete, and not all athletes would necessarily like be into the spiritual tarot stuff or whatever. But I feel like a lot of those athletes, when they make their split-second decisions, they're using their intuition. Like, when someone's that good and that quick and having to move as fast as they are moving in like a professional soccer game or football game or rock climber, and making split-second life or death decisions, they must be relying on their intuition, on this kind of second sight, this kind of instinctual knowledge of like, turn this way, kick the ball that way, twist that way. They're not sitting down and making like a pros and cons list of like, this is why I should do it, but maybe I should do that. Well, I don't know, but then that would be kind of dangerous. It's like, that can be really dangerous in the moment. If that guy was climbing Yosemite and suddenly he started having, you know, all this back and forth in his mind, doubting himself, questioning whether he's thinking about how high up he was, thinking about how dangerous it was, thinking about all the things that could go wrong, then he'd probably lose his, you know, his stamina or his mindset, and he'd just fall, you know? So I feel like you guys are moving into this realm of like high achiever people who rely so much on their intuition. And right now, you guys, it feels like, are completely and fully relying on yourself. And you've really cut out the noise around you about what this person thinks, that person has to say. I feel like you guys have made a lot of necessary changes, and Spirit just wants to confirm to you that those were the right decisions, that you are going in the right direction. And the more you rely on your intuition, the better off you'll be, which I feel like you guys do know that already. So yeah, I also feel like more people's eyes are going to be on you. I feel like people are going to be really noticing you. I feel like people have already noticed you guys, but it's just going to be like amped up to 10, because people are seeing you achieve and people are seeing you do new stuff. And as you level up, I feel like people are really noticing, like, how is this person doing this? Like, wow, they're really accomplishing some things, and dang, like, they're doing pretty good for themselves. And they don't seem to be following a traditional path. They seem to be really kind of blazing a trail for themselves and doing something totally new. So a lot of people are just really paying attention to you during this period. Like, if you guys do post on social media, I feel like this will be a great time for you guys to work on it or build on it. Or if you're thinking of starting a social media, I feel like you guys might be having some advances with that, or it might just go really well. But either way, even if you're not on social media, I just feel like so many people are noticing what you're doing and noticing how you guys have just almost like, I want to say, what's the word that they use in like business? Like, I don't know, streamlined, or you've sped up the timeline. Like you're like a factory now that's working at like top speed, you know? There's no more kinks, there's no more like issues with the machinery where it's not quite working, and where this machine's out of order, this person has to go here. There's like, it's like a perfect factory that's just running at top speed, turning out the best products, and just all systems go. So yeah, it's like if you're working on something that requires people noticing you in some way, I do feel like you're going to be getting that. You're going to be getting the attention and the focus you need to move whatever this is ahead. So it's going to be really exciting for you guys. I want to get the Astro Dice, spin the Astro Dice. Spirit, can you give us some Astro Dice for pile 2 about how you're going to be surprising them? So we got the 4th house, we got Venus, and oh my gosh, we got Leo, which I love because Leo is all about that, you know, shining as brightly as you can, and also about the 5th house of creativity, of kind of I feel like the 5th house is just such a bright, beautiful house, also about blessings, also about all the fun things. It's kind of a youthful, childlike energy as well. So for a lot of you guys, I feel like everyone is going to be focusing on you. The Leo, I was picking up on some Leo energy in this chart, like specifically Leo suns, Leo ascendants. It could be any Leo planets, Leo Mercury's, Venus, Mars, Sun in the 1st house, Sun in the 5th house, or 5th house stellium. But I just feel like you guys, there's some kind of part of you that all eyes are on you anyway, and I feel like you're kind of accepting that. Maybe you guys ran away from that at first. Like maybe it took you a long time to be okay with the fact that you naturally attract attention in some ways, especially if you have like a personal planet in Leo. It might bring you that attention in a specific way. Like Leo Venus, you might always get romantic attention, or Leo Mars, you might always have people kind of coming at you with a little conflict or something. But I feel like for you guys, you're starting to accept that mantle of responsibility, and the fact that it can feel like a curse at sometimes, but it's really a blessing. And how do I utilize this as a blessing? How do I shine my light as brightly as I can and not be afraid to kind of show myself off, and not be afraid to put this out there into the universe? I feel like you guys are just really making moves that's totally unafraid, and you're also forming a really strong foundation in your life. We do have the 4th house coming through, and I feel like for you guys, you know, the 4th house is ruled by Cancer. And I feel like for you guys right now, I'm feeling like for some of you guys, this eclipse is activating major personal planets for you that have to do with your destiny and have to do with your career specifically. So I don't know everyone's chart, but I do feel like you guys are going through transformations with like your personal identity, and with, you know, how people think of you, how people focus on you, what people have to say about you. And I do feel like for a lot of you guys, there's some kind of a turning point, major turning point happening with like your reputation, with like your public image, with whether maybe you guys have been shying away a little bit. Maybe you have not wanted to show yourself to the world. Maybe you've been like just kind of hiding in the shadows, and there's this really strong call of like putting yourself out there in some way, whatever it is. And as I've always said, there's so many different ways to share your gift with the world. You don't have to be just purely doing spiritual work. I think there are amazing other kinds of ways to share your light, whether that's an Instagram that focuses on like fashion from a certain era, and that can still bring a lot of light and inspiration to someone's life, or writing, or starting a YouTube all about, I don't know, how clouds form, or like different clouds. Like there's so many different ways, or cooking, or whatever, you know, we all have different gifts, and they're all so valuable and important. And I just feel like you guys are going to be called to really share this in whatever way. Or sometimes you're like, I don't want to be on social media, but maybe you kind of hold yourself back at work and you're not fully leaning into your power. I feel like you guys have been kind of pushed with a little bit of conflict around you, a little bit of jealous people around you. And now you're kind of realizing that if people are going to hate on you anyway, with this strong Leo placement where you attract energy or attention, whether you want it or not, you might as well like embrace it and do well with it and kind of take the reins and make sure that you're benefiting from that. Like if you're going to be the center of attention, why not make sure you look extra good and you're happy with it and you're fine with it and you're enjoying yourself, you know? And speaking of Venus, we got Venus here. We're looking good. We got Venus, which rules over Taurus and Libra. So far we have Cancer, we have Taurus and Libra, and we also have Leo coming through. But I do feel like for you guys, you're going to be looking really good at this time as well. You're going to be attracting a lot of attention. And I feel like sometimes you guys are very private. I'm also getting some Scorpio energy in this reading, not going to lie. And I feel like for some of you guys, you kind of like to be a little bit secretive. But I feel that right now you're really being pushed into being okay with attracting attention and not seeing that as a bad thing and realizing that that's a recognition of your power and that sometimes the blessing is going to come through something that might at first be a little uncomfortable with you. I see that push-pull a lot in people who have Scorpio, Leo placements and like that back and forth between wanting a little bit of the spotlight and then shying away from it. And I feel like now you're going to realize that like maybe that Scorpio part of yourself does get a little uncomfortable at times. Maybe you do feel like you want to shy away from it, but actually it's through showing yourself, putting yourself out there that the blessing can come. And that this is a part of your birthright. You guys do look really good. I feel like you guys do tend to attract jealousy, period. And so why be so afraid of like the attention? Why not just take control of it and be like, okay, you want to pay attention to me? Let me show you how great I can look and how great I can do, and I'll give you something to be jealous of, you know? Let's get some of these cards. How is the universe going to be surprising? Pile 2, Spirit. Ooh, okay, a bunch of these came out. Okay, so I love that we got the fertility card and the transformation card because I do feel like you guys have been transforming and you're ready for this change. But also with the fertility, you know, it's like you wouldn't see, because I feel like you guys are right on the verge of this. And it's so funny to me because your energy is almost like very unassuming. Like I feel like you guys don't even have any idea of how big this is going to be for some of you guys. Like I feel like for some of you, you're just going to be in shock about, wow, I never expected this. Like this is amazing. And this is beyond my wildest dreams. And like be amazed by how fast it can happen, by how good it can be, by the level of intensity of 0 to 60. And I feel like I would compare it to kind of like if you saw a pregnant lady and if she was, you know, 8 months pregnant or something and she was like, oh, like, well, I'm going to have a baby. You wouldn't be like, you're going to have a baby? Oh, really? You're going to have a baby? Where is the baby going to come from? You know, like if she was like, yeah, the baby's going to be here in like a month, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. Okay, sure. Yep, a baby's going to come. Yeah, I really believe you. Like, where's the baby then? You know that the baby's inside her belly and like, yeah, it's not ready right now, but it's going to be coming out, you know? So you kind of have that physical proof. But so much of the time in life, we might be like pregnant with something that's ready to happen in our life. We might be ready for something to emerge in our life. And yet we kind of will allow people to throw doubt on it. We will get into doubt in our heads as well and start thinking like, well, yeah, maybe I am being delusional. Maybe that's not going to happen. And maybe I just imagined it. It's not happening right now, so it's not going to happen in the future. It's like we always need that kind of tangible proof, right? And we have that through a baby belly, but sometimes in life, it's about having the proof that something is ready, that you put the work in, that it is going to emerge. Same with once you put that apple pie in the oven, back to that metaphor. You can smell the apple pie, you're getting that proof. You wouldn't start doubting that suddenly you're going to open the oven and it's going to be empty, right? But so much of the time we might be working on something and we just think, well, it hasn't happened now, it's not going to happen. And I feel like that's why you guys are going to be really surprised by this, is because it's truly something that you've almost like shrugged your shoulders and just been like, okay, whatever, I'll just accept this as it is. And so I do think when the breakthrough happens, it's funny, your guys are kind of laughing like, oh, I can't wait to surprise them with this. They're going to really not expect it, because I almost feel like you guys have accepted a timeline or something that just might be a little bit longer than this is actually going to take place in. And I think once you guys can really get yourself in the mindset of accepting that miracles can happen overnight and that you're not tied to a certain timeline, and whatever the timeline it might have taken for someone else isn't necessarily yours, and that magic and miracles and amazing things can happen at the drop of a hat, you're going to stop having this mindset you're in right now that you have to work so hard, or that all these things take time, or like, well, I have to be patient and put the work in. And you're just going to accept the magical blessing to roll in quickly. Like I was saying, just like how it was raining. Now it's not raining anymore, but it was pouring rain, and then it just randomly stopped. Randomly started pouring, randomly stopped. You know, we accept that in nature, but when it happens to our life, we always expect that it has to be like, first your boss calls you into a meeting, then they give you a project that's a test, then they see how well you're doing, then there's like chatter around the office that you might get promoted, then, you know, it goes to this executive and that and we expect that everything just takes so much time to do, and we kind of don't have our eyes open that like a miracle could happen, that amazingness can happen, and that we deserve it, that of course we deserve it, and we deserve to have beautiful, wonderful things that can just come to us like a miracle, you know? So I feel like you guys are going to be really surprised by this. And I hope you can, you know, you could even speed up the timeline more by getting your head around this idea faster, that like, of course a miracle can happen. And of course I deserve to have overnight success or something. Let me get some message cards to end off the reading. You can make it through. Your higher self is always guiding you. Gratitude is the life force of peace. You are the joy seeker. And I love that, because I feel like you guys right now are shifting your mindset from thinking that you have to work so hard to acknowledging that you can have it whenever and, you know, however you want. And like I said, I think these blessings happening for you are just going to come in out of the blue. And it's not going to be something that necessarily aligns with your idea of how blessings happen, that it's going to be after like this process and this timeline and these steps. It's going to be some kind of random boost that you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And so, yeah, I think it's just going to happen as a result of you guys being joyful and being in your energy and kind of not putting the pressure on it. Because it's kind of once we take the pressure off that things happen. And not to sound like a crazy obsessed apple pie person, but back to that metaphor, like if you were to open the oven every 2 minutes to be like, is it cooking? I don't think it's cooking. Is it cook? Oh my God, is it raw? I don't know. Okay, well, the crust should have formed by now. And you were opening it every 2 minutes, all the heat would leave the oven, and it would take twice, 3 times as long, right? And that shows that when we're in this energy of waiting for something to happen and counting the timeline and expecting it to look a certain way, and why hasn't this happened? But I put in this work, but I put it in the oven and I was cooking it, and we just get so stressed about something that slows things down so much. And when we can get into an energy of like, it's done, it's cooking, it's ready, I trust the process, it's going to come out so good, I can't wait. That speeds everything up and allows it to happen a lot faster. So I think you guys are realizing that, and I think it's going to pay off in these amazing career blessings and with more visibility and attention that you're going to be getting from others. So yeah, I think that is what I have for you, pile 2. I really hope it resonated. Let me know if it did in the comments. I absolutely love hearing from you guys, your thoughts, your opinions. So let me know what you think. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button if it did resonate as well. Also, make sure to subscribe. I would love to have you guys here joining our little team over here. And also make sure to turn on notifications so you can find out as soon as I post. And if you guys want to see more of my readings, head on over to my Patreon, where I post all my additional readings. And when you sign up, you'll get access to about 35 additional readings, all about love, career, spirituality, all kinds of different topics. And I just posted a reading all about trick or treat Halloween blessings coming for you. So that one's a really fun one. And I also posted one before that about what you need to know about the people around you. That one's kind of juicy. And of course, there's lots of subjects about love and all kinds of different things over there. So definitely check that out. The link for that is underneath the timestamps in the description and in the comments as well. And as of right now, I am doing private readings. And so that is available at my website, briarrosetarot.com. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am sending you guys so much love and light, and I will see you guys very soon in another reading. Take care, guys, and I'll see you then. Bye. Hey, pile 3, welcome to your reading. We're going to do a live shuffle and figure out what surprises are coming your way from the universe. Can you please give us guidance about what surprises are coming for pile 3? Okay, so this to me looks like it would be the ending of some kind of a difficult situation. Maybe you guys have been going through a lot lately and there's something you're going to be leaving behind. Something that you're just ready to leave, something that might involve a lot of conflict. With that 5 of Wands, it might be something where you're constantly having to deal with some kind of a difficult person, difficult situations, arguments, or just high drama and conflict. And I do feel like that situation is going to be coming to an ending and you guys are going to be seeking out something a lot happier. It's interesting because I generally see the 8 of Cups as a positive card, heading towards something you want even more than the current situation, heading towards something that's just going to make you a lot happier. And with that Knight of Cups coming through as well, I feel like you guys are putting more of an emphasis on your own emotional health and happiness, and you're not as willing to put up with the BS. Whereas in the past, maybe you made excuses for dysfunctional people, or you would just kind of turn a blind eye or pretend like, well, it's not that bad. I feel like you guys are really learning to enact some boundaries and getting more in touch with what you want and your needs, and not as willing to play ball. And I feel like that has a lot to do with you leaving and extricating yourself from these difficult situations and heading towards things that are going to make you a lot happier. I only got 4 cards for the other piles, but I want to get more details on what kind of happy surprises this is going to be. But you might be feeling stuck in this situation, honestly, and that's why it's a surprise. You might be feeling like you're just going to always be having to deal with this. We're not doing reversals in this reading, by the way. And so it feels like when it does happen, you're kind of like, huh. Like, I feel like this is something you might be holding on to for a while, have been holding on to for a while, and maybe you were just not even thinking that you could let go of it. Maybe you were like, well, this is just always how it has to be. This is just how it is. You know, I'm not gonna get upset about it, but I'm just kind of stuck in this situation and there's really no way out. And when it does happen, it's just like this huge surprise. I actually feel like you guys are learning to be a little bit more selfish. I'm hearing Selfish by Britney Spears in my head. I love that song. And I feel like you guys are learning to kind of prioritize yourself. You've been, you know, probably prioritizing others, dealing with their feelings, maybe tolerating some bad behavior from certain people around you, or making excuses like, oh, that's just how mom is, or that's just how, you know, she is. She's always kind of late, like my friend, like she's always kind of scatterbrained. And so it's okay that she stood me up for lunch today. And I feel like now you're like, I don't know if I want to deal with this anymore. Or maybe I'm still willing to deal with it on some level, but I'm going to put my boundaries down of like, this can't happen again. And like, I don't want to talk to you about this, or I don't want to deal with you about this. I feel like you guys are really making sure that you prioritize yourself. Also, I could see you guys having a new romance with that Knight of Cups coming in. So if you guys have been wanting that, that definitely is a possibility. I just would really love you guys to have this kind of vibe of really putting yourself first and prioritizing yourself, because I almost feel like you guys tend to get very much into giving for others to the point where you get exhausted, to the point where you guys don't have as much to give to other people. And you know, the thing about that is like healthy people are looking for healthy partners, right? And there's obviously multiple forms of health, but like when it comes to, you know, a relationship or whatever, a lot of times someone who is really healthy, they're not looking for someone who would tolerate bad behavior, right? They want to find someone who has healthy boundaries, who's going to be able to say no. The only people that want to be around someone who doesn't have boundaries is people who tend to push past boundaries and tend to be very selfish and tend to be takers. So sometimes when we're giving so much, even though that's a very positive thing, we can tend to attract people that might take advantage of it, not appreciate it, not give to us. And I do feel like you guys are in the process of really learning to enact boundaries for yourself and really learning to put your foot down a little bit and say no. Because I feel like you guys have a very hard time disappointing others. You tend to overgive. And I feel like that has gotten you into some very sticky situations, almost like where your intuition has been going off at times dealing with people. But then you make excuses or you say like, well, no, it's not that bad. Well, you know what? Maybe when I got that weird feeling when I met them, it was because I was having a bad day. And it wasn't them. It wasn't because they're really sketchy, and because like I feel like you guys do that a lot to yourself, kind of second guessing. And I feel like that has what has put you in some of these situations where there's dysfunctional people around you and you're like, why am I surrounded by these people? But it's because on some level, some of you guys have tolerated it or put up with it. And I do feel like you're learning how to really stand in your own dignity, and you're learning that your perspective in a relationship is just as important as the other person's. So if they're fully happy and content with things, but you're miserable, that's not okay. It's not fair, and it's not what your spirit guides want you to be in. So I do feel like you're going to start being kind of extricated from that. And I feel like you are being encouraged to go down this journey to really think about what truly brings you happiness. You know, the sun is such a positive, uplifting card. And I feel like you guys are really being encouraged to seek out these two things, to seek out this Knight of Cups and to seek out the sun, to pay attention to the things that bring you happiness and fulfillment and joy, and to move yourself away from anything that would take that away from you, and to really pay attention maybe to how you emotionally feel after certain situations. Like if you're dealing with a friend and whenever you hang out with them, you feel really drained, you should notice that. You know, whenever you talk to your boss, if you get really stressed out and you notice your hands are kind of shaking, that's a really bad sign. You know, I remember I was giving a reading to someone and they told me that they were having panic attacks every single day in like the work bathroom. And I'm like, okay, that's really bad. And I told them, I'm like, well, what makes you think that that's normal though? Like that's something you've got to address. Your body is showing you that like this is so bad for you, you know. And it's so funny though how this person kind of didn't want to acknowledge it. You know how sometimes we can just be like, no, but I have to do it, so I can't leave. And it's like sometimes you have to take a step back and realize, you know, I have a lot of options here. I don't have to tolerate this. This is stressing me out, and I matter. I'm important. It's not just about how much money I can make, or I need this job, or well, this person's going to be really upset if I say no. Okay, well, you're going to be really upset if you say yes, right? So you matter too. And it's so funny how many people have a hard time prioritizing themselves and really getting clear. And I think that's because, in a way, like it makes you be the bad guy for a moment. Saying no to something, saying, I don't want that, saying, I want this. For a moment, it makes you kind of unpopular, and you are going to be unpopular. There's going to be plenty of people that don't like it when you put down boundaries. But part of life is like being okay with that, you know. And as I always say, not everyone likes caviar, or as Ida Bunty says, you could be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and not everyone likes peaches, you know. So the thing is, I feel like you have to just be okay with like, yeah, people are going to dislike me. Not everyone's going to get me. And oh well. And I feel like you guys really need to move into that. You really need to move into some boldness of being like fine with it. That like, yeah, my toxic boss who keeps trying to get me to stay late and work overtime for free, probably going to be kind of upset that I suddenly demand they pay back all the overtime I missed, or that I just stop doing that and I just leave on time and I don't put in work through the lunch hour when I'm not paid. Yeah, they're probably not going to like that. But you know who would be totally fine with that is like a normal functional boss who wants to pay you fairly and doesn't want to take advantage of you. And there's lots of them out there. It may be, you know, harder to find at times, but it's really not. You know, there's plenty of people that want to like give their employees a fair wage and be kind and respectful to them. And it's up to us to have those boundaries of like, I'm not going to accept less than that. And of course, I know that sometimes there's financial constraints in that certain situation, but at the very least, you could start applying, you could put your resume out there. And this isn't just regarding work, it's regarding relationships. Like sometimes we do this in relationships. We tolerate BS in relationships, and then we wonder why I feel so drained when I'm with any of my friends. Well, what are you getting out of that? Are you just giving, giving, giving? And if you are, why? You've got to get into the pathology of it. Why did I ever think this was like okay anyway? why did I ever try to tolerate this? Why did I ever think this was fine? And really doing that unpacking about what part in your life you were at when you started thinking that it was okay for you to accept the bare minimum. And I feel like as you guys go through this journey, you're gonna get a lot of blessings about you, first of all, having a much happier life, feeling a lot more emotionally fulfilled. But it's almost like you got to get your bearings first. Some of you guys have just been feeling really beaten down, really sad. And I feel like you have had conflict surrounding you, or you have had these difficulties that keep coming up. I know it can be really difficult when you're going through a season like this, but this is just a time then for you to do some reflection and to kind of process and unpack, like, when did I first start noticing this happening to my life around me? When was the first time I noticed this pattern with me? And how do I get myself into a better situation? So I want to get some of these cards to figure out what blessings are going to be coming in for pile 3. So we got skywriting the fates, many masks, the authentic self, jeweled web, connectivity, and hollow bone, teachability, and new beginnings. I love that new beginnings for you guys. I almost feel like some of you guys are kind of scared to leave some of these things behind. Maybe you feel like if you leave this behind, you won't have anything else come in. And I feel like you really need to know that, you know, in order to clear space in your life for the new things, you have to get rid of the old. So as scary as it might be in the moment when we're getting rid of something else, that's actually a positive moment, when even though it's not there yet, we're preparing and making way for the new blessings. So not to be afraid of it, not to be nervous. I'm just trying to rearrange these, but anyway, they're kind of hard to arrange. But yeah, I feel like you guys are clearing out the old, getting ready for the new. And honestly, like I said, it's very exciting. I think some of you guys are very hesitant and reticent to like take yourself out of certain situations because you might have a scarcity mindset, thinking that like, well, if I dump these friends, I'm not going to have anyone else to hang out with. That's not how the universe works. And if it's calling you to get rid of something, then that's an act of trust and proving to the universe that you have faith in the universe's infinite abundance that's always there for us. So kind of having an attitude of non-attachment, of like, whatever is meant for me will always be for me. So I'm going to get rid of this now. And if it's meant for me, it'll come right back in. And if it's not meant for me, then the right, better thing will come into my life. And I feel like you guys just need to learn that. You need to realize that you need to be okay with like something leaving, because it allows and creates and clears space in your life for something new to come in. So right now, I feel like you're going to be surprised, maybe initially, by a little bit of losses, but actually it's such a blessing because it's preceded, or it's followed right away, proceeded, I guess, by a beautiful succession of blessings. You're going to have so many new beautiful things come in that I feel like can't really come into your life right now because maybe you're tied up constantly in a situation of some conflict. Whatever this is, I feel like it's something that causes you stress a lot. Like I don't know what it is in particular, but I feel like it's some situation that just weighs on your mind, that you think about a lot, that kind of makes you nervous and puts you on edge, and you just don't really feel super great about it. You might stay up late thinking about it. You might really toss and turn about it. And I feel like this situation is one where it's almost like the door is open. Spirit is showing me an open door. So it's almost like you could leave, you could get out of this. So for whatever reason, when you're staying in this, your guides are kind of like, okay, I guess this is what they want. Okay, they're staying. They seem pretty attached to it. And I feel like you should know that like, you know, by you kind of not asking for more or demanding more, you're actually saying, this is what I want, you know, to your guide, to the universe. And I feel like if you were to just release and allow it to float out and let the chips fall where they may, because I think sometimes, like I said, it's someone who knows like a certain situation is messed up, but they're afraid that if they act right and stand up for themselves, that they'll be kind of punished, that situation will end entirely. And it's like, and so what if it does? They're like, well, I have this really toxic friend that takes up all my time and attention and like doesn't ever really ask about me. But if I was to bring up myself at dinner, like they would just be really annoyed with me. And it's like, okay, so then that's your sign that you should bring up yourself even more, right? Like you should know that. At least then you'll know so you can then make the choice. At least then I think that's why it's really a great energy to be in, where you're just advocating for yourself, where you're truly looking out for yourself, where you're speaking up for yourself. That's the best energy to be in. And when you can be in that energy from the beginning, then you attract in the right people that want to see you thrive, that want to see you do well, that want to see you standing up for yourself, that have a fair idea of relationships and realize that relationships are a give and take, and that they want both sides to be happy. That don't just want to be catered to and have their desires fulfilled, but not your desires. So that's why when we advocate for ourselves from the jump, we don't find ourselves in situations with people that only want to take from us. Let me get some astro dice for pile 3. Spirit, can you give me some astrology dice, astrological energies for pile 3? So we got the 4th house, we got Jupiter, and we also got Capricorn. So we have Sagittarius, the Cancer, and we have Capricorn coming through. So Sag, Cancer, Capricorn might be present or dominant in your chart. But with 4th house, it definitely could have to do with family. It definitely could have to do with parents, or, especially the mom, or also your father, your siblings, even like close friends to a certain extent, it could have to do with. And I do feel like it's interesting because you guys have the energy of the planet of expansion, and then you have the energy of the planet of restriction. So we have Jupiter and Saturn coming through, and then it's in the middle is this moon energy, the 4th house. So I feel like you guys are you're feeling pushed and pulled between like this desire to expand. But again, like I said, there's almost some things that need to be removed first. That's the blessing that happens with Saturn, and why a lot of people's lives get better after they complete the Saturn return. Saturn is kind of that really tough teacher that teaches you what needs to be pruned, what needs to be removed, what needs to be taken out of your life, what cannot keep going, what is unsustainable. Jupiter, as much of a blessing and a benefic as it is, it can kind of come into our life and make everything easier, so we can put on those rose-colored glasses and pretend like, no, it's fine. But we're only getting by with that luck from Jupiter, right? And Jupiter is the energy sustaining that situation, not the situation isn't sustainable on its own. So actually, as much as a Jupiter transit is lovely and a Saturn transit can be really difficult, I feel like Saturn also is that necessary hard teacher, or that hard, difficult energy that teaches us what really has got to go. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship and it's like summer and everything's great and there's really no issues. It's easy to keep going, but it's when the hard times happen. It's when winter comes, metaphorically, although I actually love winter, but where things are difficult and you're having difficult discussions, that you really realize if you're super compatible with that person. And part of life, I feel like, is practicing that non-attachment and realizing that if it's not supposed to work out, then that's okay, and something else will replace it. But I feel like you guys need to really be taking stock right now and seeing the things that you're feeling called to remove so that these new blessings can come in. You really need to pay attention to energy drains, I'm hearing, energetic drains, time drains. There's a lot of drain on your time, and it's almost like you guys have a very hard time thinking about what really brings you joy and thinking about what makes you happy so that you can really serve your highest good. I feel like you guys are trying to make others happy, and you're kind of running yourself ragged. You're kind of really tiring yourself out and not even having the time or the space energetically to think about your joy and to think about this beautiful Sun Jupiter energy that's coming through, of the blessings and of the happiness and of the divine things that I feel like your guides want to give to you. Right now, it feels like you're just kind of trying to tread water and keep things up and keep things going as it is. And I do feel like with that Sagittarius energy coming through, Jupiter is also, the energy of God. It is a sage. It's about wisdom, and it's also about travel and expansion. And so for some of you guys, it's like God has already put this in your heart and given you the intuition about things that need to be removed. And you just really need to actually listen and trust and kind of free fall, like jump, obviously metaphorically speaking, jumping out of that plane and like trusting that your parachute is going to open if you're skydiving, obviously not if you're just randomly in a plane, but I feel like you guys need to trust that Spirit has you, that God has got you, that God isn't going to put you in a situation and leave you hanging, you know? So if Spirit has put an intuition in your heart, it's for a reason. It's not because he was just like, this will be kind of interesting. Let me just see them mess themselves up by trying this out, you know? Spirit puts things in our hearts for a reason. And if it's in your heart and you're feeling that nudge and tug telling you that you should do something, then that is such a powerful thing and test of trust. And some of you guys might be going through a Saturn return or just difficult Saturn transits. Could be something like Saturn transiting through your first house, or I could see relationship houses as well, like your fourth house or maybe your seventh house or something. But it's like, I feel like you need to just lean into these lessons and allow them and not try to hold on so much into what's not working and just embrace these new horizons, because Jupiter is also about new horizons. It's about travel. It's about expanding our knowledge through being really unafraid and bold, because that's what really travel is about, right? Like, you don't know what's going to happen on the trip. You don't know what's going on in that culture, but you kind of have the trust that like everything is going to turn out okay, and that the wisdom and the spiritual knowledge you get as a download during your travels will be worth whatever happens on the travels, whatever hiccups may happen, losing your luggage or being in a country where you don't speak the language, or where there's a completely different culture from yours. All those things are worth the lessons we get in the end. So I feel like you guys really need to work on being very unafraid of all of this. Let me get some of these cards for pile 3. Any other messages about surprises happening? Reconciliation. Okay. Well-being. I feel like some of you guys need to look after your physical health as well, and make sure if you're feeling downloads about things you can do to improve your health. I feel like that's something you should do. Like if you feel called to, I don't know, try a certain diet for like spiritual reasons or something. I don't know. I just feel like that's a download for some of you guys that you should listen, because I feel like maybe some of you guys have started meditating or something. And, I just heard that phrase, the wound is where the light comes in, from Rumi. And I do feel like, this might be a little bit of a painful time you guys are going through at present, but it's like you're growing so much through this period. I feel like you guys are really growing and leaning into it. And if you haven't been spending time meditating, I really feel like this pile should, because I feel like actually you're going to look at this time. It's funny that I said, oh, in a season of winter, because it is one of my favorite seasons, and we're coming into winter, at least in the northern hemisphere. I don't know. I think it's the northern hemisphere, right? And south is in summer right now. But I feel like, what I love about winter is the stillness of it, the quietness, the way the trees are all kind of dead. I know that might sound depressing, but to me, I love that. I love the kind of purity of it. And even though it's not the kind of loud, beautiful abundance of summer, it's that quiet whisper of winter. And to me, I feel like that's kind of what you guys are going through, is you're being called to really tap into spirit, to really listen to spirit. That's another benefit of going through a hard time, is it makes us actually trust our intuition more, listen to spirit more. You might be having very vivid dreams. And I feel like spirit is letting you know that they're going to guide you through whatever this time you're going through. That the downloads they're giving you right now are crucially important for you, for what's going to be happening next in your life. And you're growing so much, and your guides are so proud of you right now. And so be aware that things are going to be leaving your life during this process, and it's things that need to leave. Just like during winter, like I said, the leaves die off the tree. That doesn't mean they're never going to come back. And you would look like a crazy person if you were underneath the tree, like screaming and talking about like, oh my God, the tree is dead. It's never coming back. Oh my God, the leaves, and trying to like glue the leaves back on the tree. You would look totally crazy, or trying to paint them back green. You just have to accept that, like, yep, those leaves are gone, and know that if they're being taken out, that means they had to go. And come spring, you're going to get way better, healthier, bright, fresh green leaves. So I feel like you guys are on that journey right now. And I actually think this is really exciting and beautiful for you. Like, I feel like you're being really purified and taken into an energy of almost like a blank slate. And that's always the best time, right? That's when you tell an artist, I commissioned some artwork from an artist, and I was like, by the way, like, I love your work. They were like, well, what do you want me to do? And I was like, well, I love your work, so just do whatever you want. And they were like, they were like, what? And I was like, well, I gave them some suggestions or some like colors that I wanted and what I wanted. I didn't give them a complete blank slate, but I told them, you know, what I wanted and then the colors. And they were like, okay, well, I'll drop some sketches and I'll send you the sketches. And I was like, no, like, it's fine. I just want you to kind of like really trust yourself. And I love all your stuff. And so, you know, go for it. And they were like, are you sure? And we were going back and forth and they're like, no, like I want to get your approval. And I was like, no, you have my approval. I'll like it, whatever it is. And and anyway, partially that was because I was like also on a time crunch, but I really loved their work and I did feel fully trustful. And anyway, they brought me the commissioned artwork and it was amazing. And seriously, I love their artwork, but this to me was like their best piece. I truly believe. And then they kept reposting that. It's funny, they kept reposting that same artwork like on their social media. So I feel like they agree that that was one of their favorite pieces they've ever done, you know? And I could have sat there and micromanaged, but I felt like that trust I was giving them also allowed them, because I know I've done art myself and it's kind of annoying, you know, like you understand when someone's like looking over your shoulder and wanting to micromanage, but I feel like when you just give someone that full trust, it allows them to like fully blossom. And when you give an artist a blank canvas, it allows their imagination to run wild. And I just feel like they so outdid themselves with my artwork. And I feel like that's what Spirit is doing to you right now. It's almost like you've got to clear the slate first so Spirit can really go out and show off and just do everything for you guys. So let's get some final messages for pile 3. Your true tribe can't show up until you do. I love that. And for some of you guys, I do feel like you're feeling a little bit alone or lonely or just feeling very attached to people from your past or attached to current people in your life that aren't serving you. And I feel like you really need to know that you're going to be aligned with the right people. And if anyone is taken out of your life, that's for a reason. And I love this one. When peace is your priority, negativity cannot exist. So when we, like I said, make boundaries for ourselves, set a priority of like, I am not going to tolerate this behavior. I'm not going to like allow things in my life that consistently take me out of my peace. Then we don't attract those types of people anymore. They start seeing the boundaries the first time they cross them and we're like, nope, can't cross there. Then they'll take notice and they'll go find someone else whose boundaries they can cross. So as much as it might be scary in the moment to say no to something or someone or to put our foot down, that's aligning us with the kind of life we want. And we're constantly sending a message to Spirit of like, yeah, I'll tolerate that. Yeah, that's fine with me. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever gone to like, I know this is a weird metaphor, but like in a deli or a restaurant or something. And sometimes, you know, they'll show you like, they'll slice off a piece of ham or something. And maybe you're like, oh, that's too big of a slice. But if you were just like, oh, that's fine, then that's what they'll give you, right? But if you were like, oh no, I want it thinner, then they'll slice it again and they'll slice it until it's thin enough for you. Or if you were like, well, I want some cheese, and they just pointed to the first cheese, like a cheddar cheese or whatever, but you don't want that. Maybe you want some stinky, like gorgonzola cheese. I love any kind of stinky cheese like that. Then you gotta say like, no, I want the gorgonzola, you know, or you know, I want this kind of a cheese, or I want to age that amount. And they have all these options and they're happy to give you it, but you have to know what you like and you have to know what you want. You have to be willing to tell that person when they give you that first offer, nope, that one's not for me. I want that one. And that's kind of like Spirit. So sometimes we get this scarcity mindset and we feel like, well, if I don't accept this from Spirit, I'm not going to get anything. But actually it's through saying no that we really tell Spirit exactly what we want and we get what we want more perfectly. And I love the how is in the now, because I do feel like I'm getting this meditation vibe for you as well, where you're really learning to be present with yourself. And this is the energy of winter I was talking about, that stillness, that quietness. It can be really scary when we're distracting ourselves with noise, and that kind of Saturn restrictive energy that comes in, that kind of strips things away from us and pares our life down. It can be really scary when it's happening, but it's in those moments that we really find that holiness of God. Honestly, not to get too spiritual and way too intense, but I just feel like, yeah, you guys are really being guided through a journey that I think is making you much closer to your spirit guides and stuff like that. So, wow, what a deep message. I really hope it resonated. Pile 3, let me know if it did in the comments. I'm very curious about this pile, so let me know what you think or what's going on in your life right now that this really deep, intense message came through for you guys. I'm very curious. Let me know. And also make sure to hit the thumbs up button, give this reading a like if it did resonate with you, and make sure to subscribe. I would love to have you here on our little team over here, and make sure to turn on notifications if you want to find out as soon as I post my next video, so you'll get notified. And if you guys want to see more of my readings, you can head on over to my Patreon where I post all my additional readings. You'll get access to about 35 readings when you sign up, and new ones go up all the time. I just posted a Halloween special reading about tricks or treats coming your way, and also another reading about what you need to know about what's going on around you, also that extended reading the other day. And yeah, so there's lots of readings to choose from: love, spirituality, career, all kinds of subjects. So definitely check that out, guys. The link for that is underneath the timestamps in my description and in the comments as well, and I would absolutely love to have you there. And if you guys want a private reading, I am currently doing those at my website, briarrosetarot.com, so you can sign up over there to get a one-on-one session with me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will see you guys very soon in another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, Pile 4, and welcome to your reading. We're going to do a live shuffle and figure out how the universe is going to be surprising you guys. Okay, so we got the Four of Swords, Temperance, the Moon, and the Queen of Cups. So just leading off, I feel like this is going to definitely be a big surprise. I know this is a reading all about surprises, but I feel like especially for you guys, this reading is going to come out of the blue, and it might not be something that you really have to like actively seek out or go after, but it's just going to kind of be a gift handed to you from the universe that you're not necessarily expecting. Like with that Four of Swords, you're not really going to have to put a lot of effort into it or push yourself on something. It almost feels like this is just a gift, one of those things that's kind of a magical blessing that like doesn't require a lot of stuff on your end, but just comes as a big surprise and a big shock for you. And I feel like part of that is about your emotional fulfillment. Part of that is about something that will just make you happy on an emotional level, bring you joy. So it could be something related to like a hobby, or I'm even seeing like an interest, like if you have a hobby that like is creative, or something that you just kind of do for fun and enjoy and kind of makes your heart sing. There could be like forward momentum with that, or there could be something brought to you with that, like just a really nice happy day or a really happy time when you're just feeling great. And maybe it's like, you know, the rest of your life is kind of staying the same, but you have this really, you look back at this time in your life and you think, wow, everything was really nice. And also there could be a relationship or an emphasis on relationships during this time. So it could be that you're really around people that bring you that joy and fulfillment and that feeling of peace and relaxation. Because I almost feel like for you guys, the energy is just moving into this more relaxed, almost a restful energy where there's not so much drama. If there's been a lot of drama around you, I am feeling like that might be ending and things might just be flowing a little bit easier for you. So it's not something that like you guys are going to have to push yourself really hard to make happen, but it would be something that's just a lot like easier, like your life is easier. Maybe it's like you moved to a different location or something, and it's just like you had a lot of barking dogs at your old location, or there was a lot of stress with your old house. I do apologize, by the way, it's really windy. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I guess it's that time of year. But I do feel like in your new location, it might just be that like you can get a really full night's sleep, you know, and there's not a lot of noise and it's very restful and very relaxed. Or you were in like a college course that was really difficult and you had to push yourself and you had to work really hard. And now it's like you're suddenly all your classes this semester are super easy. Same for work or whatever your situation. I'm just getting an energy of easiness and honestly more time to spend on hobbies and more time to spend on the things you really enjoy. Let me see what else is coming through for pile 4. How is the universe going to surprise pile 4? What was I just saying? And this is why I love doing a live shuffle. So my tarot readers can see like that is what we're channeling right now, even before I got these, the Nine of Pentacles and the Nine of Cups. So yeah, easiness. Like I just feel like you guys are gonna have things going your way. I just heard the universe is conspiring in your favor. And I know that, that's a saying a lot of people know from The Alchemist, and it can have a lot of deep, meanings that mean a lot of different things. But I feel like for you guys, it's almost just like, wow, this is just so much easier. The Nine of Cups both of them are such cards of contentment, ease. Nine of Pentacles can be luxury. So it might be that your financial situation is a lot easier. If you have been having trouble and struggling paying the bills, having trouble with, getting yourself on a good financial path, then it's just going to be easier. Like I feel like you guys aren't going to have to worry so much or pinch pennies or whatever this thing is that's been causing you stress and making you nervous, and it's almost like it's been hard to find your footing. I feel like you just start kind of figuring your way out and you're like, oh, okay, I got this. And maybe it's not like you achieve this huge goal that you wanted for the longest time, but everything just gets easier, which I actually feel like is the biggest goal and is one of the best things we can achieve. It's just like, I can breathe, I can take a breath, I can relax, I can kind of like sit back and chill, and I'm not having to fight these battles so much. I'm not having to like get down in the mud and scrap for whatever this is. I'm just able to kind of be in my receiving mode and just kind of relax, receive, calm down, take a breath. And that just seems to be a theme for you guys over the next few months. Maybe your nervous system has been kind of overactive or something. Like I feel like maybe you guys were dealing with a lot of stress and it even impacted you physically. I could see you guys maybe not being able to sleep. I don't know why sleep keeps coming up, and we do have the Four of Swords. So it might be you're just able to like actually catch up on sleep. But I don't even feel like it's just limited to that. I feel like it would be like a whole vibe, like being able to like stay in bed on a lazy Sunday, and maybe you haven't been able to do that for a long time. Being able to like sleep in your bed and just like wake up lazily in the morning with a little bit of the winter light pouring in, and like slowly walk to the kitchen and make yourself some coffee and, eat whatever you want for breakfast. It's not this like mad dash out the door. I got to get to work. Oh my God, I'm going to miss my subway ride to the office and I have to return 15 emails. It's just like, okay, we kind of reached over that part. We're over the mountain, and now I can really, really relax. Let's see what else Spirit wants to bring up. How are you going to be surprising pile 4? Okay, so we got the Tower and we got the King of Cups. So with the Tower, of course, that can definitely mean major upheavals and changes. But with so many positive cards and it coming out with the King of Cups, I almost feel like the Tower is an energy you guys have been in for a while, and it may still continue. But I think for those of you guys who are practicing non-attachment, this isn't going to be like as catastrophic as some people think of the Tower, because I almost feel like you guys have very much leaned in already to this energy of like whatever has to go is going to go. And I do feel like that might continue for a little bit longer. Like I don't feel like the purging is quite over. If you've had a lot of things you've gotten rid of or changes you've made over the past few months, I feel like you should have that confirmation that you're on the right path, that your guides and your angels and your team on the other side is really happy with that. And that's part and parcel with these blessings that you're getting. But at the same time, like I said, it's not quite over yet. It feels like there's still a few more things that need to go and that you're kind of in the process of letting go of. Almost like loose ends that needed to be tied up. Like you've done most of the purging. There's just a few extra things that I feel like are going to be major changes and upheavals coming to you that you might not expect. And, I feel like it's easy for all of us to get attached to things. Like it's so funny to me how sometimes someone will be so attached to like an ex and they don't even realize that like it's not like you only get one relationship for your whole life and like, oh, you had it, that's it, it's over, sorry, you can never date again. You know, it's just like when at one point you'd never met that person, you didn't know what to expect, you probably never imagined you'd meet them, no matter how much you care for them. We can still be very unaware of like the blessings in store for us, but we can have this very myopic view that like, that's it, and this is the only person for me, this is the only job for me, this is the only blessing for me in whatever way. And the reality is we have so many endless opportunities. So I feel like for you guys, maybe, you know, I think you're very good at practicing that non-attachment and releasing some things, but we can always still like hold on to things and just be convinced that like, oh, I'm not going to have anything new. Oh, like that was my last relationship. That was my last job that was really good. And I'm never going to have a job like that again, or whatever the case may be, and just be very limited in our kind of scope. And I feel like you're starting to realize that like leaving it up to spirit and just being open to the process is the best solution. So like if someone's not in your life, then that's okay. And they're not in your life for a reason. And there's no point in kind of hyper fixating on it. It's just like, okay, they're not in my life, so let me move on. It's kind of like if you were working on a car, and obviously I know nothing about cars, so excuse all the like language I'm probably going to mess up, but if you were working on a car and say you knew something was wrong with the engine, but you didn't know what, maybe you were trying out the different parts, and maybe you tried like the carburetor and that worked fine. So you were like, okay, so maybe that's not what's wrong. You wouldn't just start hyper fixating on the carburetor and be like, no, but I'm sure it's the carburetor and it has to be the carburetor. It's gotta be, or if there is something wrong with the carburetor, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, the carburetor is broken. I'm never gonna get another carburetor again. This is horrible. My engine will never work. That was my one chance. You just go to the store, buy a new carburetor or tinker around with it, do whatever you need to do and kind of keep it moving. You know what I mean? And I hope that metaphor makes sense, but it's just so funny how we have this scarcity mindset to so many things in life. And I think that's why we get overly attached to certain situations and we hate change. We hate the idea of leaving. You know, I'll even find like if I'm staying in a hotel, I'll get sad at the end of the week and be like, oh my gosh, I loved this place. But of course, you know, you're happy to return back, or if you go to another hotel, it can be just as cool and just as beautiful. So my point is that sometimes, as much as we as humans get very attached to certain things, outcome, situations, I feel like you guys are really learning this lesson to release and let go, and you're doing an amazing job at it. And it's just going to continue a little bit more. There's going to be a few more releases made with you guys, but I actually don't see this happening in a violent, like negative way, in the way of the Tower. I feel like it's going to be a very happy outcome for you. We do have the King of Cups coming out at the same time with the Tower. So I feel like all these things are to make you very happy, and all these things are to bring you fulfillment, even if it doesn't quite seem like that in the moment when all of it is going down, or maybe you're feeling a little bewildered, like, well, how many things am I going to have to give up? And how many changes am I going to have to go through? Like, oh my God, I've already lifted my whole life and uprooted my whole life, and now you're telling me more change. But I think this is a big process. It's kind of like, you know, you could renovate an old house and just repaint the walls and make a few minor tweaks, and it'll actually, I mean, I'm biased because I really like old houses, so I'm probably not the person who would side on this. But if you wanted to build like the house of your dreams for you specifically, and you wanted like a really crazy bathroom that was like massive, and you wanted to have a little tower, and you wanted to have a moat, and you wanted to have XYZ, all these different things, you would need to build that from scratch. You couldn't take just an old house and be like, well, maybe we can expand the bathroom or repaint the walls. You're gonna have to rip all that stuff out, and you're gonna have to probably bulldoze it. And then you're going to have to probably dig down into the dirt to make a big foundation for like a basement. And that's when you're finally able to make that foundation and build it from the ground up. And I feel like you guys have been in that process of like a major renovation, of like kind of gutting the old. And now you're coming into the energy where we're starting to build, but there's still a little bit of like uncertainty of like, okay, but what's going to happen next? And I do feel like there's some major changes for you guys. I can't even necessarily say exact specifics for all of you guys. We did get the moon, which can talk about things being a little bit veiled. And I feel like with temperance coming out next to it, Spirit is asking for kind of like your trust and your guidance in this process. But I will say on the other side, I see you being much happier, because I do feel like your life, especially emotionally, you're going to be a lot happier. I feel like your life, and I just noticed King and Queen of Cups came out one on top of the other. I do feel like your life on the other side is going to be so much more fulfilled. Like you guys are going to be so much happier and just feeling much more aligned. And also, I feel like part of this is the money situation, which I feel like was stressing you guys out. And of course, even though everyone says money isn't everything, when we don't have it, it can be a major source of stress. So I feel like with these changes, it's just like you're able to spend more time doing the things that bring you happiness and kind of thinking on yourself, or thinking on yourself. I mean, like almost like you guys have been doing some shadow work, and that process is continuing, and you're kind of unpacking childhood stuff, or you're unpacking different traumas, or you're really unlearning certain things. And I feel like with this easiness of your life just being a little bit more streamlined, you're able to spend more time doing that. You're able to really dive down deep and spend time really enjoying the process, not looking at it as a bad thing, as like, oh my God, now I have to deal with this now, but kind of like, okay, so that came up and now I'm going to process this. And I feel like this is a long process of purification, but I do feel like in the next few months, you guys are coming into an energy where the bills are a lot more paid. I just heard that. I just heard bills paid. So I feel like the money gets a lot better. And I also feel like it's just what really makes the difference, because of course, like money on its own is pretty worthless, right? We don't pay with like gold coins anymore. We pay with scraps of paper that are meant to represent basically gold, but it's not gold itself. And so money is just a representation of energy. And I feel like what money does is it allows us to make choices for ourselves and have more free time and spend time doing the things we love. And that's really what I'm seeing coming in for you guys. So even if your income doesn't go up like, and triple or double or whatever, I do feel like you're going to have more money. But what really makes the difference is whatever money is gained just allows you, in whatever way it comes in, to spend a lot more time working on yourself. Because sometimes we think in order to be happier, we'd have to suddenly become like a millionaire or a billionaire overnight. But I actually think that, sometimes when we look back at the happiest times in our life, it's like, being in college and just having the day to ourselves and just getting to kind of relax and chill and go to class and then go hang out with our friends. It's that kind of nice lifestyle that's like a little bit more chill and less frantic and less stressed out, right? Because maybe our bills are kind of paid at that time in our life, and, our schedule is more our own. And that's kind of what I'm seeing, is like you're starting to make your own schedule. You're starting to pay attention to like what brings you happiness and what brings you joy, and you're not so much running around feeling like you absolutely have to do 1,000,001 things and that you're tied to this crazy schedule and that you can't say no. So I feel like that is what really makes the difference for you guys. So let me get some additional cards for you, pile 4. What is going to surprise pile 4? How are you going to surprise pile 4 in the next few months, Spirit? We got Moon Maiden, New Beginnings, Repairing the Veil, Forgiveness, Straddling Worlds, Wandering Between Realms, and Beloved, Radical Acceptance. I feel like you guys have been doing some spiritual work with past exes or something, and it's almost like there's a release happening. It could have had to do with this eclipse season that we're either still in or we just came out of. By the time you're watching this, I'm not sure when it'll be posted. But yeah, look, me talks. And that's really what this is I feel like it's almost like because you've been doing the shadow work so much, you're kind of surprised and shocked by like, I didn't know I could feel this good. I didn't know that I could come to a point where things really felt like I had purged so much of it. And I had really had this sense of catharsis and release, and like it's really gone. You know how sometimes like I feel like you'll think like, oh, I'm always going to be upset about this situation, or I'm always going to care about this person. And then it's kind of funny, like you'll think about that same situation years later and you're like, huh, oh yeah, I remember being really upset about that. Like I was mentioning to you guys, I remember, or I was going through my calendar, like my iCalendar thing, and I like, it autofills for like suggested responses or suggested titles. And I was typing something in and it like autofilled for some, I don't know, I think it was a paper I was writing in college because it was like, it sounded like a paper. I don't remember the title. It was probably the name of some philosopher or something, but I don't recognize the name. And then it was like, do exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And I'm sure I was really, really stressed about it. I can only imagine, like, because it was in all caps and I could just feel kind of like, even, you know, from that distance, I could feel the stress that I must have typed it in with. And I was like, wow, I can only imagine that at that time when I typed that, like that was like the number one thing on my mind. And I was thinking back to different things that would like stress me out back then. And of course, those aren't things I really think about nowadays. And it's so funny how like our perspective changes. And I almost feel like for you guys, there's pain you guys have been going through or trying to process, maybe relationships that troubled you. It could be an ex or a twin flame or something, or it could be family as well. But that you're like, well, I'll never get over this. I'll always be in this. I'll always be upset. And I feel like over the next few months, you're just going to be amazed, like, huh, it just doesn't bother me anymore. I don't really care. I mean, I don't have those same feelings. I'm not upset in that way. Maybe this situation used to really drive me crazy and I would just, you know, be frantic about it. And suddenly I feel really at peace. And suddenly I just wish them the best and I don't really care that much. And I genuinely feel that way. I'm not, you know, I'm not pretending. I'm not trying to seem cool and blasé, but I really just am at peace with them. And I'm at peace with this situation and I'm ready for something new. Because I do feel like you guys are almost being like, I just heard in my mind, this is so funny, restored to factory settings. You know, when your iPhone or phone or whatever you're working with starts messing up and then you like try to reset it and restore to factory settings as like a last ditch attempt when everything's going haywire. I almost feel like that's happening to you guys. You might be feeling a little bit younger lately, like things might be coming up for you that remind you of who you were when you were younger. I feel like you might be walking down the street and suddenly you get a weird smell that takes you back to being like 12 years old, or you hear songs on the radio that were like everywhere when you were like 16 and going through something. And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, like that, I haven't even heard or thought of that song in forever, but it takes me back so much to that moment. I feel like you guys are just kind of being reminded of like who the F you are in a good way, like some of the trauma that you've had to deal with. And, you know, we are dealing with kind of a crazy situation with Pluto right now. And I feel like for you guys, a lot of this has to do with the ending of this cycle for you, with you kind of finally putting some things to rest that have been with you for a really long time, and finally getting some closure on situations that you probably thought you were always going to be upset by. And I feel like this is really something that is going to surprise you, because for the longest time, I think you always thought you were going to be dealing with it. And it's almost like there's just more peace in your life, and a peacefulness you never thought you'd have. Maybe you always thought you were going to be surrounded by drama, or you always thought that you were going to have to be dealing with certain toxic dynamics in your relationships. And now you're like, huh, I look around and all my friends are like super supportive and cool, and I don't have any toxic friends. And all the guys I've gone on dates with have been super nice and gentlemanly, and I don't have any more toxic bad boy energy or whatever you were into. Like, I feel like suddenly it's just a much more peaceful and happy and calm vibe. And honestly, there's a beautiful potential here for a fresh start as well. Like, I feel like you're really getting a grip on what you really love and what really makes you happy. So you're almost able to build this new house like that. Like I was saying, if you were going to build the house of your dreams, you would have to know that you do want that tower, or that you do want that extra large bathroom with like the sunken tub, or I don't know, the giant walk-in shower with like, you know, jet showers. I don't know. You would have to get a grip on that. You would have to know how you want to design things in order to build that from the ground up. And I feel like you're really refining exactly what it is. And I do feel like by the end of next year, so the end of 2023, wow, it's crazy, but I feel like you guys are going to really be so certain in a way that like took you a while. And right now you're still kind of in the searching building. It's almost like I'm seeing someone flipping through like a book of wallpaper or something. It's funny they're showing me this metaphor, or like flipping through, you know, the Home Depot catalog of sinks or something, and like deciding that they want these kinds of fixtures and this kind of paper. And I feel like you're just really perfecting the idea of what you want. And by the time next year, it's going to be really set in place. But right now, I just want to commend you guys because I feel like you have been doing the work, and it's going to take you to an even more amazing place. But within the next few months, I feel like almost, you know, that might even be too far off in the future, because for some of you guys, I feel like this energy has already started happening and is already in place in your life, and it's just going to continue. But I feel like it still is a surprise to you. Like, I didn't know life could be this peaceful and good. I thought life was stressful and hard and difficult, and this is so easy. But I feel like we're already in this energy of things being easy for you, relaxed, calm. I love that. Let me get some astro dice for pile 4, the astrological energies at play for pile 4, Spirit. So we got, ooh, love that, the second house and Venus. Oh my gosh. And then we have Leo. Wow. So beautiful. Okay, so second house, which is related to Venus, of course, and also relates to Taurus. And then we have Venus, which rules Taurus. So there's that heavy Venusian energy of someone who is taking it easy. And again, I also think the energy of Venus it's love, and it's also learning what you love, not just romantic love, but learning like, I love this. Venus is also like literally decoration and beauty and aesthetics. So it's not just about romance. It's literally that process of picking out the wallpaper for your house and being like, I want to design it that way. And when it's in Taurus energy, that is more, you know, about a solid foundation and about existing physically in this world. And second house is also about income. So I do feel like for you guys, you are definitely going to be making a little bit more money and having a little bit more ease and getting a little bit more choice with what you choose to do and how you choose to spend your money and how you choose to live your life. And I do feel like you guys are going to be making some major decisions over the next few months about those choices. It's like you're going to be finalizing that wallpaper, finalizing the sink, finalizing that. And right now, just enjoy this process of picking out each one. We also have Leo. Leo relates to the sign in the 5th house. And, you know, with Leo, first of all, that can be center stage energy and taking a little bit more center stage, prioritizing yourself a little bit more, your likes, your wants, your dislikes, all of that, not prioritizing other people, especially if they were toxic. But also Leo, you know, in the 5th house has to do with, like I was saying at the beginning of the reading, hobbies, desires, those things we do for fun, creative pursuits of all kinds. Leos are incredibly gifted in those areas. And I feel like for you guys, you're really gonna get more time doing the things you love. It's almost like you've been in survival mode and you've been having to just, you know, focus on getting through moment to moment. And the last thing you've had time to do is think about like, well, I love to paint, or I love to cook, or, oh my gosh, I love to, I don't know, go on a hobby or go on a hike or have a hobby of visiting antique shops or whatever the case may be. Like, I feel like suddenly now it's like you have all this time to do the things that really make you happy and really bring you so much joy. And this is a part of that healing process, because it's almost like for so long you weren't able to. You had to prioritize others, or you were just having to fight for survival. And that's why I think you almost are so surprised by this. You don't recognize it, is because you're like, I never thought I would be that person in the antiques fair in the middle of the day and getting to like shop, and suddenly that's me. Or I never thought I was going to be that person who could like hand paint different ceramics and just have a studio in my house, but that's me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you guys will all get a ceramic studio, but there's this extra room in your life for what you love that I feel like is just such a delight, you know? Oh my gosh, I just saw the end of the movie Under the Tuscan Sun. I love that movie. And when she turns on like the spigot of water, and it's like a metaphor because the spigot of water, probably anyone who has not seen this movie is like, what is she talking about? She sounds crazy. But there's like this spigot of water she kept trying to turn, and it would just release dust. And suddenly she turns it and it just starts flowing out water. And she just starts laughing. And honestly, it's a really moving moment. I feel like that movie's highly underrated. I love that movie. It's very metaphorical and philosophical, in my opinion. And I feel like for you guys, it's like you start realizing that, like, what was dry and dusty in your life, what you thought was just, this is always how it's going to be, suddenly it's pouring down water in the best way, and you're like laughing, like, this is so good. I thought that well was dry, but there's so much more. Because honestly, I feel like this is a journey back to yourself and back to like this inner child you had. And also the 5th house, Leo, is about children, and it is about our inner child, and those things that, you know, when you're a kid, you don't have like bills to pay, you know, you don't have really most of the time like a ton of chores to do. You're just kind of living life happy. And I feel like Spirit is bringing you back into that energy of your joy and your happiness, and just what is really bringing you back into yourself. I love this energy. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get some final cards and this reading on. Spirit, can you give us guidance for what surprises you're going to be bringing to pile 4? So we got prioritize self-love and care. Could we get a more perfect card for pile 4? That's what you guys are doing right now. And I do feel like you're going to have a lot of time for this self-care. I'm honestly so happy for you guys, pile 4. I feel like you are, whatever spiritual work you have been doing, it is really paying off. Look, oh, I love this. And this is the one you're ending on. Out of the woods, you've made it through. It's honestly making me emotional because I feel like you guys have been going through some hard times, and now look at you. You're coming out of it. You've succeeded. You did it. And now it's just about to be so much easier. I don't know if some of you guys completed your Saturn returns, or there was a heavy Saturn transit through like the 1st house, or Saturn really strong aspects to the sun or the moon. I don't know, but I feel like you guys are just, wow, it's like you came out of it, you know, and now suddenly things are so much easier for you, and you're able to relax and you're able to chill a lot more. And this is just going to be such a beautiful energy of you finding your tribe, finding the people around you. This one says come together, we need each other, and this one says the universe rewards motion. So I feel like right now this is kind of your rest period to like regain your strength, pick out, like I said, the paint samples that you want. And then in the next part of 2023, I feel like you guys are really going to be enacting that and building this life of your dreams. So anyway, guys, I really hope that resonated. Let me know if it did in the comments. I love hearing from you guys, and I would love to know what's going on with this pile. So please definitely let me know your thoughts, and make sure to hit the like button, give it a thumbs up if it resonated, and make sure to subscribe. I would absolutely love to have you here in our little team at Briar Rose Tarot. And if you guys want to find out as soon as I post, make sure to hit the bell and turn on notifications so you can find out as soon as I post. And if you guys want to see more of my readings, you can head on over to my Patreon. A link for that is underneath the timestamps in the description and in the comments as well. And I post all my additional readings over there. When you sign up, you'll get access to 35 additional readings, and new ones go up all the time. There's ones about love, career, spirituality, all kinds of different subjects. So there's so much to choose from. And I just posted ones about tricks or treats from the universe, and also all about what you need to know about what's going on around you. So a lot of juicy new readings, and of course the extended I just posted, a lot to choose from. So definitely check it out, you guys. Like I said, link is underneath the timestamps in the description and in the comments as well. And if you guys want to get a private one-on-one reading from me, I am doing those right now at my website, briarrosetarot.com. So head on over there if you'd like to sign up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sending you lots of love and light, and I will see you guys very soon in another reading. Take care, guys. Bye.